Hey guys, what's up? My name is Rob, and I want to welcome you to your very first piano lesson. A little bit about me, real quick. I started playing the piano in 1998. I took lessons for about 8 months. Unfortunately, I was not able to continue with them due to them being very expensive. But I had such an interest in the piano that I actually continued on my own. So I am very much self-taught, but I did study music theory for a long time, and I'm still a student of it to this day, as well as being a student of the piano. So we're going to start off today with a little bit of music theory. I don't want to get too far into it or spend too much time on it. I will try not to spend too much time on it. I wrote some notes that I will go over with you, and I'll be showing you a few things along the way. And then we'll kind of move into your first piece on the piano, which will be a big surprise later on in this lesson. So, if you already have a basic understanding of music theory, for example, you play another instrument and took lessons, or you were in the band when you were a kid or something like that, feel free to skip all the way past the music theory stuff. All right. So that being said, what is music theory? So music theory is the framework or foundation upon which music is built, understood, and communicated. Music theory creates the fundamentals of music and provides the system of reading and writing it. Music theory allows us to write the music we hear or recreate the music that we read. Okay, so like you put a piece of sheet music in front of you, that piece of paper is not going to sound like anything to your ears, but you can read that and use that as a roadmap to recreate what you hear, or what you read, rather. All right, so music is built upon three major components. You've got harmony, melody, and rhythm. Okay, so harmony is when multiple notes are played at the same time to create a new sound. An example of harmony is a chord, which is three or more notes played at the same time. I would define it as two or more notes, but that's just me. It depends who you ask. Okay, so for example, a chord, three or more notes. I can play a C major chord. Okay, and that's called harmony. They're three different sounds sounding at the same time. Okay? A chord progression is a pattern of chord changes used to create a song, and a harmony. The main job of a harmony is to support the melody of the song. So the melody would be like what you would hum, your favorite song, you're humming the melody, right? You're not really humming the harmony, okay? So for example, a harmony could be like okay. So that's not really a melody. I guess it could be a melody, but like to me, that's a harmony. That's kind of the backbone. That's the chord progression that you're playing. And then on top of that, there would be some sort of melody. It might be the piano playing it. It could be another instrument, or the melody could be what the singer is singing, if it's a song that has vocals. Okay. So a melody is a run of notes that creates a musical phrase. So think of a melody, like I said, as the part of the song that you would hum, whistle, saying if it's the melody is set to the lyrics, if it has vocals. So if you think of a song that you would hear on the radio, or your favorite song, doesn't matter if it's rock, pop, country, probably not rap. Rap beats can totally have melodies, but so the melody is the part that you remember, like the actual tune that you remember, right? So the verses a lot of times will have a melody that's different from the melody that you might hear in the chorus. Not always, but and same thing with the bridge. So let's play a simple song, and I'll identify which part is the melody, right? I'm just kind of winging this as I go, right? Okay, so the what my right hand is doing. Okay, that's kind of the melody, and then the backbone, the harmony, was that chord progression. Okay, so the two of them together are kind of starting to form a song, if you will, kind of just making it up as I go, but you can hear the difference between the melody and the harmony. Okay, so melodies have two main components, and that is going to be pitch and rhythm. Okay, so pitch is the tone of the individual notes. So this is a C. Okay, this is a G. This is an E, an A, back to E, down to D, etc. Okay, so those are the pitches, right? The actual different high or low sounds that you hear. Now, rhythm, I don't think I need to explain what rhythm is, but it's basically the length of time. And really, the best way to explain what rhythm is just like the rhythm, right? It's like how it transitions from one note to the next, okay? So I'll play four quarter notes, right? And a quarter note will explain kind of what that is later on, but I'll play four quarter notes, right? Okay, not really. I mean, there technically is a rhythm there, but you're kind of just, each note has its has the same duration. Okay, so it, like I said, technically is a rhythm, but let's add a little bit of a rhythm to those four notes. I'm going to play the same four notes, but I'm going to play them in a rhythm, and I'll probably repeat it just so you can hear it for a bit longer, right? Okay, so now you have a pitch, which is the actual tone of that individual note. That's a C note that I'm playing, right? But you're hearing also a rhythm on top of it. So I'm playing, it might have been more than four, I don't even know. But you're hearing a rhythm even though I'm playing the same four notes. Or it might have been more than four. I honestly wasn't paying attention, but I could also go. Okay, so again, same notes. I'm playing the exact same notes. I'm playing four C notes. I'm gonna stop saying what number I played, how many I played, because I'm not really paying attention to be honest. But to that anyway. But the rhythm is different, even though I'm playing the exact same notes, right? So this is how you're able to take a chord progression that might be the same across, hundreds, thousands, etc., of different songs and make them each unique. So even though the progression of the chords from one to the next might be the same, it's the melody and especially the rhythm. Well, not especially, but the melody and the rhythm together being different that separates, different songs so they don't exactly sound exactly the same, okay? All right. So we're going to move on here. I've just got my notes up here on the computer that I wrote out. All right, so do you need to learn music theory to be a musician? No, you don't. You absolutely don't. Some people just kind of have a musical ear and they already kind of just have it in them to sit down, with minimal instruction or, whatever, and start being able to create music. So you don't need to learn music theory necessarily. However, it will help you have a better understanding of how music works. So theory is the foundation of all music. Any genre, any artist, any song that you've ever heard, music theory is the foundation underneath it upon which it is built up. Okay? It'll help you read written music and help you to create your own music eventually. Okay? So let's kind of get right started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the musical alphabet. Okay. So the musical alphabet is made up of seven letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it repeats as you go up and down the piano. Okay. So you'll never hear somebody say play an L on the piano or play a W on the piano. Okay. That doesn't exist. Okay. And this is true. The musical alphabet is true for all instruments. Okay. So music only goes notes only go from A to G and then it repeats. Okay? There are pitches in between these notes called accidentals, and on the piano, the accidentals are the black keys. Okay? And we'll look at those in a little bit. There's several types of accidentals, but we'll get to those in a minute. All right. So now you know the musical alphabet only goes from A to G. Okay? So here's an A, right? B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? And then from there, the next note is A again, and it repeats, okay? So let's talk about intervals on the piano, okay? There are two basic intervals. There's more than two, but these are the basic ones upon which other intervals are created, okay? So the smallest interval possible is called a half step or semitone. I will generally refer to them as half steps, okay? So a half step is created by playing any key on the piano, so here's C, okay? And a half step is created by playing the very next key on either side of it, okay? So if I go a half step up from C, I'm playing C sharp, okay? That's called a half step, all right? I can take a half step down and go from C to the B, okay? and that works everywhere on the piano. Okay, here's G, half step up, G sharp. Okay, back to G, half step down, G flat. All right, so that's called a half step. So a half step is literally playing the very next adjacent key on the piano. And if you've ever seen a guitar, everybody's probably seen a guitar, right? So a half step on a guitar is going from one fret on the guitar to the very next fret without skipping any, okay? So a whole step, also called a tone, and I will refer to them as whole steps, all right, is created by two half steps equal one whole step, right? So if I'm on C and I want to play the next note up, a whole step up, I'm going to skip over the C sharp and go to D. Okay, so here's C, here's a half step, here's my second half step. Those two together create a whole step, okay? And I'll play the D, all right? And that, again, works in either direction. So if I'm playing C and I want to take a whole step down, I'm going to skip over the B and play the B flat, okay? That is a whole step, all right? Let's move on. Um, Reading through my notes, two half steps make a whole step. But remember that, it's very important. Two half steps make a whole step. Always, always, always. And half steps and whole steps will be important later when we start creating scales and looking at scales. So you definitely want to memorize the difference between the two and what they mean, okay? So again, half step, play the very next key in either direction. Whole step, skip a key, okay? All right. So let's talk about accidentals. So accidentals are sharps, flats, and naturals. Okay. So um, a sharp is represented by a symbol that looks like the pound key on your phone, or a hashtag if you're one of those people. A sharp is created by taking a lettered note from A to G, A to G. Okay, so the white keys, and raising that pitch up by a half step. Okay, so for example, if I'm playing C and I want to play a C sharp, I'm going to raise it up a half step. Okay, that's called a sharp. C, C sharp. Okay. It's always a sharp is always raising a pitch and not lowering it, and it's always going to be by a half step. Always, 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 always. Okay. So if you see a note, another example, if you see A, excuse me, if you see A sharp, which is here, okay, you're gonna find A and play the black key immediately to the right. I might have said that backwards. Okay, I'm reading my notes here. But anyway, so this is A sharp. This is F, F sharp, D, D sharp. Okay? Now technically, here's E, right? Technically, this F is also E sharp. Okay? But as a beginner, don't worry about that. You've got another one here. B, B sharp. Okay? As a beginner, don't worry about that. Think of sharps and flats as the black keys on the piano. Okay? All right, so flats are the same thing, except they're lowering a pitch by a half step. Okay? So for example, I've got D. If I want to play D flat, I'm going to lower it by a half step. So play the very next key to the left. Okay? So D, D flat. B, B flat, G, G flat. Okay? Pretty simple stuff. So a flat, I think I threw it up on the screen, or I will when I edit this. It looks like a lowercase b, kind of, like an italic lowercase b kind of symbol. All right? The last one I'll mention is naturals. So a natural simply cancels out a sharp or a flat. So if I'm playing B, I'm reading a piece of music, I'm playing B, and then it tells me to hit B flat, right? And then later in that measure, it wants me to play a regular B again. It would have the B with a natural sign next to it, okay? And like I said, they're not necessarily always the black keys on the piano, but as a beginner, I just want you to remember that sharps and flats are the black keys, all right? Don't want to get too technical into like kind of more intermediate music theory, but just understand that you do have E sharps, even though it's a white key. Same key as F is also technically E sharp. And also you could take that the other way. So this is F. This could be F flat, okay? But don't worry about that for now. Just think about sharps and flats being the black keys, all right? Also, I want to say, do not be intimidated by the black keys on your piano because they're not scary like some people think. A lot of beginners think they're scary. I'm going to assume that if you're watching this video, you're probably not a young child. You're probably at least, a teenager or possibly an adult. So take my word for it. The black keys add a lot of opportunities on the piano that you wouldn't have if you could only play with the white keys, all right? There's certain kinds of sounds you just wouldn't be able to create without having the black keys, all right? So don't be intimidated by the black keys. All right. Reading my notes. I already explained that. Oh, so keys on the piano that sound the same but go by different names are called enharmonic. All right. So what that means is you have more than one name, but you have the same pitch. So for example, this key right here, okay? Here's A, okay? So this is A sharp, okay? But this is B, this is also B flat. So this is A sharp and B flat. And it depends on what key you're playing in. We'll talk about that kind of later on. But that's called enharmonic. So um, same pitch, different names, all right? Moving on. So there are 12 keys in which to play music. And what that means is that from starting on any key, so here's A, right? I have A major. Okay, I've got B. I'm not going to go through all of them. Also, I forgot B flat. Okay, C, D, E, etc. So starting on any key, there are 12 before it repeats, and that includes the black keys, right? So if you start on A and count it up, I think I've got a graphic for this. Before it gets to A and repeats, there are 12 keys, okay? And those 12 keys in a row are called a chromatic scale, meaning it's hitting every single key along the way and not skipping any. All right, for example, if I play the opposite, well, not the opposite, but an example of a non-chromatic scale would be like C major. You'll notice I skipped over all the black keys, right? So that would be not a chromatic scale. In fact, that's called a major scale, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. All right, so intervals. An interval is simply a specified distance between two notes. Intervals are measured by the number of half steps and whole steps between them, but they're also measured based on their position within a particular scale, okay? So intervals form the foundation of chords, which are formulaic in nature, and creating chords is simply a matter of plugging in the correct pattern of the intervals between the notes. Okay, so what does that mean? What all that waffle, okay? All right, here's a C major triad chord, okay? I'm skipping the D and the F, right? And I'm playing these three, okay? So the C major scale, watch me play it again, okay? The C major scale includes these two keys here, D and F, right? But I'm skipping them and playing the first, the third, and the fifth notes of that scale, okay? Notice I numbered those. The first, or root, the third, and the fifth. So I'm skipping the second and the fourth ones, okay? That is how you create chords. They're formulaic in nature. So starting in any key, if I play the first, third, and fifth notes of that scale, I can create a major. If I play the first, third, and fifth notes in that scale, I will create a major triad chord. Here's one in A major. Okay, here's one in F major. I'm playing the first, the third, and the fifth, right? And sometimes that third or fifth or even the first will include a black key, like A major here. I've got the C sharp. Okay. So we'll talk about and we'll learn more about chords later. All right, octaves. You're going to hear about octaves all the time, particularly on the piano. So some instruments can't play an octave at the same time because some instruments you can only play one note at a time. For example, like woodwinds in a band or the brass, like a trumpet, clarinet, you're only playing one note at a time because you're opening and closing, holes in the instrument itself to create those notes, and you can't do it more than once. A piano is not limited like that. So an octave is simply the next highest or lowest pitch of the same note. So for example, here's C. If I go up to the next C is right here, that is an octave, okay? So the C major scale starts on C and it goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, okay? Those are the notes of the scale, okay? And then it repeats on the next C, right? So where it repeats from is an octave, okay? They are counted, where am I? 12 semitones apart from each other. So you remember earlier I said there are 12 keys in which to play music, right? And that number goes to 12. So on the 12th note, you're going to be um, one octave up or down from where you started from if you were counting each key. All right? All right, scales. Everybody's favorite is scales. So a scale in music, I said earlier, is a set of notes within an octave, so without repeating, right? So it's not like C major is not, the scale is not C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, da, da, da. Okay, it's only those seven, and then it just keeps repeating up, down, always, and forever. That's a song, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so a scale tells you what notes are available for you to play in that song, right? So, like I just talked about, C major has no sharps or flats, so I know that C major starting on the C encompasses all the white keys, right? Another example, D major, for example, starts on D, so instead of starting on C, it starts on D and contains the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp, and then it repeats back to D, right? Okay, so I'm using those black keys in there, and I'll try and I don't even remember what I just played, but play the same thing in C major. It sounds the same, just the pitch is a little bit different, right? So that's how key signatures work. It tells you at the start of a piece of music what key you're going to be playing in, all right? Moving on, there are 12 major scales, beginning on each key of the piano before repeating, and major scales sound happy and kind of warm to our ears, all right? So C major is a major scale. And when I say major, I don't mean like big, huge, epic scale. No, it's the sound of it, right? So a major scale sounds, kind of happy. I mean, it depends what you're playing for sure. You can probably make a major scale sound not so happy, kind of sad. But anyway, so the formula, we talked about whole steps and half steps, right? So the formula to build a major scale is going to be whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And I actually came up with see, these are my notes that I'm reading. I'm just reading them off my computer instead. So whole, whole, half. So W for whole, H for half, right? So for constructing a major scale, to remember that, you might use this or you can make your own up. Where was Henry when we were happy? All right. Happy, major scale. You see how I did that? Threw it in there. All right. So what does that mean? So we're going to start in C major. So that's going to start on the C. All right. So to build a C major scale, we're going to start on the root and then we're going to take a whole step, right? The first W, where was Henry when we were happy, right? So here's our first W, where, okay? Where. Then we're going to take another whole step. Was, okay? Skipped over the two black keys there. So whole step, whole step. Okay? Now we're getting to our first half step. I'm going to just move my hand down just so you can see. All right? We're going to take our first half step from E to F, okay? And that's going to be Henry. And then we're going to take three whole steps. When we were, notice I'm skipping over the black keys. And then finally back to the root at the top here. Happy. All right, so that pattern that we just talked about, whole, half, whole, excuse me, whole, half, whole, half, works starting on any key on the piano. So it doesn't just matter for C major, it can start on any key on the piano. And if you follow that pattern, you will create a major scale in whatever key you started on. So for example, we did C already, that was C major. So for D major, for example, okay, we start on D. So we're going to take a whole step to E, another whole step to F sharp, a half step to G, a whole step to A, a whole step to B, a whole step to C sharp, and then we're back on D. Okay? Okay, sounds kind of happy. All right, so a similar thing can be done to create a minor scale. Now, just to kind of throw it out there in case you look this up or you're studying kind of theory on the side in an app or website or whatever, or even a book, there are three types of minor scales. We're going to look at the main, most common one, which is the natural minor scale. But just know there are two other minor scales. We're not going to talk about those right now. But the natural minor scale is also the scale that will normally just be called a minor scale. So if you hear just blah, blah, blah in A minor, they're probably referring, almost definitely, I would say, referring to the A minor natural or A natural minor scale, however you want to word that. But anyway, so that is the most common one. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so minor scales sound dark, sad, kind of emotional, stoic, reflective, internal, So, for example, A minor, which we'll start with, doesn't use any flat keys, so no sharps, no flats, no accidentals, right? So A minor sounds like this. Okay, so you can kind of hear that sounds kind of sad, right? Okay, so you can hear like the, sadness, kind of emotional, dark sound to it. So the pattern for the to build a minor scale starting on any key, and I'm not going to explain this as in depth as I did with major scales because the concept, the fundamentals are exactly the same. But the pattern that you're going to use, I have my mnemonic here for whole steps and half steps. So a W word is a whole step, H word is a half step. So it's going to be when Henry was weeping, he washed windows. All right. So what does that look like on the actual piano? So we're going to start on A here. Okay. And we're going to say, uh, there's your root. So we're going to take our first step. It's going to be a whole step to B. Okay. When, and then we're going to take a half step to C. Henry. And then we're going to take, I'm just going to move my hand down. So we did the first three. I'm just going to move my hand down to the next five. Was, whole step to D. Weeping, whole step to E. Then we're going to take a half step. He to F, half step to F, and then a whole step to G. Washed windows back to the root. Okay, so when Henry was weeping, he washed windows, and then a half step back to where we started from. I might have said that wrong the first time. Anyway, the pattern for that is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Now, you might have noticed if you're paying attention, which I hope you are, that C major and A minor used exactly the same notes, which is simply just the white ones, right? The difference is they're starting on a different key, right? C major starts on naturally C, right? A minor starts on A. Okay, so because there's a different pattern of white to black keys, in other words, whole steps or half steps from one note in the scale to the next, that is what gives you the different sound of happy C major, sad A minor. Okay? All right. Let's talk some more about integrals. All right, we're going to stick with C major here. You know what? I am going to teach you really quickly on the side because I took for granted that you already know this, and you probably don't or might not. How to find which key on the piano that you're looking for or need to play or whatever. Okay, so if you look at the piano, I got a graphic for this. I'll probably defer to that. But you see the two black keys, sets of them moving up and down the piano, right? So think of those two black keys like a doghouse, right? It's got two walls on either side. So what's inside the doghouse? What's in the middle, sticking out the door of the doghouse? Well, that would be the dog, right? That dog starts with D, right? D-O-G, dog. So that key in the middle of the two black keys is always going to be D, all right? And from there, you'll be able to figure out any other key that you're looking at on the piano. So for example, what is this note right here? Well, I've got a dog in the doghouse here, and I've got another one here, right? So all I gotta do is count up or down, right? So if this is D, this is E, this is F, this has to be G, right? And here's that G again, here's the D up here, so I can go D, C, B, A, and then we know that it only goes A through G, so if I'm going to the left and I reach A, the next one is gotta be the last one, which is G, right? So D, C, B, A, G, or D, E, F, G, all right? Now that I've taught you that, and I meant to do that like first, but I forgot. All right. Each note of the scale has a name relating to its interval away from the root. So in C major, the root is C. Okay? We're going to talk about C major here just because it's easy to understand. All right? The root note is also the musical key the scale is written for. So if this is the root note, C, and I'm trying to make a C major scale, okay, it's going to be C major. Okay, the root note is also the musical key the scale is written. Now I could be playing in C minor. Okay, so but if I was building a minor scale and the root note is C, then I know it's C minor. I'm trying to build a major scale and the root is C, it's going to be C major. Okay, hopefully I don't lose you and hopefully I'm not over explaining that. Anyway, so C is the root note in a C major scale. All right, the second note up. Okay, now C major only uses the white keys, right? So the second one up is going to be D. Okay, this is called the second, right? It's the second note. Okay, then moving up from D, we have E. E is the third. Okay, it's the third note up from the root. If you count the root in there, which you need to. Okay, so 1 is the root, which is C. D is the second. E is the third. Okay, this works all the way up the rest of the scale. Okay, so from here to here, this is the fifth note up from C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the fifth, sixth, seventh, and then this is an octave, of course. We talked about that. All right. Now you do actually technically have other intervals, like from this C to the second of the next octave is a ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, etc. That might not even be the right numbers, but yeah, like you do have larger than octave intervals, but we're not going to talk about those right now. Okay? I think I did say that right. 8 is the octave, so that's the ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Theoretically, you could be on like the 70 something, but you're not going to see chords written like that because you don't have 15 inches between finger spans with 5 hands. So you won't see that. But anyway, within the octave itself, you want to remember you got the root, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, sixth, seventh, and finally the octave. Okay? Now notice I numbered those. I have a graphic for this and I'm going to throw it up there if I haven't already. Um, this system works with actual numbers um, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll also see them in Roman numerals. It's very important. If you suck at Roman numerals, it's important to learn them for music. Okay, at least up to um, up to 8. Anyway, I would say. But you definitely like 8 and below, like within the span of an octave, you want to learn those Roman numerals. So you've got the I for 1, the 2 I's for 2, 3 I's for 3, IV for 4, V for 5, VI for 6, VII for 7, and then 8. I don't know if you'll really see them for 8 too much, but I would learn it anyway. But that would be the VIII. So V is 5, 3 I's is 3, so 5 plus 3 is kind of 8. If you don't know how Roman numerals work, go out and learn them really quickly. You need them for music. All right. Now this system, we've all heard it from, what is it? The Sound of Music? Is it do re mi do a D or a female D or that song? Can't remember if it's the Sound of Music. I think so. But anyway, so you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then it repeats again. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da, da, da. Up, down, it works the same. I can't say them in reverse. Just being honest. But yeah, you definitely want to remember the numberings of them, both with actual numbers and then also Roman numerals. Now, there are fancy names for these intervals as well. Um, so the root is the tonic, the second is the supertonic, then you have the mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, the leading note or leading tone, and then finally you're back to the octave and playing the tonic again. You don't need to memorize those, but you do need to know the numbers and the Roman numerals. You will see them often when learning and playing and reading music, especially like the numerals thing, especially if you're reading some kind of like just rhythm outline or chord sheet. You'll definitely see them in there as well. Okay. Now, something I need to point out to you when you're looking at Roman numerals, if you see a chord progression that's simply written out in Roman numerals, so it's telling you like, our song, the verse is going to be like the one, which is the root, and then we're going to play the fourth, which is also, so this is a C major chord, this is an F major chord, then we're going to play the sixth. Well, the sixth is A minor chord. Trying to talk and play at the same time, my bad. Because that sixth there is a minor, those Roman numerals will be lowercase, and that indicates that it's a minor chord, versus like the root, C major, is a major chord that will have an uppercase Roman numeral. Okay, so lowercase Roman numerals indicate minor chords, and uppercase indicates major chords. All right. Let's see. There are. Well, let me look through my notes here. I might have already explained this. Oh, one thing I will point out to you. So there is such a thing called inversions when you're playing chords. All right. So what an inversion is for example, C major triad chord is the root, which is C, then an E, then a G. All right. To play an inversion, you just simply play those in a different order, but making sure you're still playing the same notes. Now, I don't mean the same literal keys, because then you're just playing the same chord again and again. Like you could call it like I'm playing G, C, and E, but really you're still playing C, E, and G. That C, that E, and that G. Okay? That's not what I mean. What I mean is this C up here is the octave up from the C you were playing. So if I play this E, this G, and this C, this is still a C major chord, just like this is. Okay? The difference is I'm playing them in a different order. I'm playing the E here, the G here, and the C here. So what that's called is the first inversion. I'm playing the third from the scale. 1, 2, 3. C is the root. 1, 2, 3. I'm playing the third on the bottom, then the fifth, then the root. Okay, that's called the first inversion. The second inversion is the same thing, only you're starting, instead of on the third, you're starting on the fifth. So you're playing the fifth, the root, the third. Okay, so all these are C major chords. They're just, these two are inverted. Okay. All right. So you don't need to remember that necessarily right now, but just be aware that it doesn't need to rigidly place you in only playing, the block triad chords all the time. All right. You have, like, for example, this sounds different from this or this. Okay, but it's all C major the whole time. All three of those are C major. Okay. And moving on, we talked about the numbering systems for the intervals. So let's look at how this works in a chord progression. I'm going to actually flip to the blank page I have in the back. Right, it's nice and big for you. All right, so if we have, I'm going to write these in Roman numerals, right? So uppercase I, hopefully you can see that, is the 1, right? Then we're going to play the minor sixth, which is going to be lowercase vi, and then we're going to play the fourth, IV. I have to think about it. And then we're going to play the fifth. All right. That is our chord progression that we're going to play. And we're just going to play block chords so you can see how it sounds. All right. So I'm going to leave it right here. And I'm going to play the chord progression that we just wrote. Hopefully you can still see it. Here's here's the one. I'll punch them 4 times and then transition to the next one. All right, so 1 minor sixth to the 4th, and then to the 5th. Back to the root, starting over, repeating back to the 1 or the root. Okay, so that playing just the block chords 4 times and then transitioning down and looping back at the beginning, that's just one way to play those chords. But you could play them with a different melody or a different rhythm and make them sound totally different. For example, everybody's probably heard at some point in their life, they or somebody else, some people who don't play the piano know how to play at least the bottom part of this song. Everybody's heard this. It's called Heart and Soul. Now, I'll be honest, I've never actually heard the song. I've never looked it up and listened to it. I don't know who plays it, sings it, who wrote it. I have no idea. But I was taught how to play a variation of this song, at least, because I don't know how the real one goes, when I was very young, and it uses the same um, chord progression: the 1, the minor 6, the 4th, the 5th. So instead of what we were just playing, let's play Heart and Soul, and it sounds totally different, even though it's using the exact same chord progression. Okay, so we've got the root, the 1, the capital I, and then we've got the minor 6th, which is the lowercase vi, and then we have the major 4th, and then the major 5th, and then it repeats. So it sounds different from, right? Sounds totally different. Now you could take that chord progression and literally play anything, staying within the confines of your progression, right? So yeah, I made a little mistake, hit the wrong, hit an extra key at the end there, but that was the same exact chord progression, right? I was just literally making that up off the top of my head as I go, staying inside the progression that we came up with. All right. So that is how music theory creates a foundation upon which you can build music. And it's the, I hate to use the word theoretical because it's kind of in the name, but it's the theoretical possibilities of what you can do with music. Okay. Now, I know we didn't talk about reading actual music and things like that in this lesson. That is something that we're going to look at. I'm getting all tongue tied. That is something that we're going to look at in the next lesson. However, what I want you to understand and take away from this is that these different concepts can be applied in a million different ways, and each time you will get a totally different output, right? Like we just showed with this chord progression, you can take the same exact chord progression and apply it differently and come up with a different sound at the end. Okay, so this is your introduction to music theory. Part 2 will be kind of more into the piano. We'll do a little bit of reading music because that's something you need to learn for sure. But we'll go into that in part 2. However, this is your introductory lesson, and I know it was mostly theory, almost entirely theory, but it's what you need to set the foundation for what you're going to learn in the future. All right. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, or I said something wrong and it rankled you, feel free to leave a dislike. That's fine. If there's anything I missed or anything you need clarification on, feel free to hit me up in the comments. One final thing that I will point out, this lesson, the kind of structure of it was based on an article on iconcollective.edu. I will put a link and credit for them um, for their kind of outline. And because I was sat down and I was like, how do I teach music theory? I'm not a music teacher. I'm not a piano teacher. This is just something that I do for my own enrichment of my own life, right? So I needed a little bit of help coming up with how to pace the lesson and what to actually talk about because it's a lot of things that I might take, totally for granted just because it's ingrained into my head, but that's not true for you necessarily, right? So yeah, but anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you continue on with the next lesson, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.